Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Simons. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a psychotherapist, as well as a course creator. And I'm happy to be here with you today talking about people pleasing. We've heard a lot about it, at least I have, and a lot of us have a lot of experience with it as well. So, what is people pleasing? People pleasing is when we act in ways that prioritize other people's thoughts and feelings over our own thoughts and feelings. And one way that we don't often recognize people pleasing is as a form of deception. And it really is. It's a way of not being honest with ourselves about what we think and feel, what we want to do or don't want to do, and not being honest with other people about those wants. And that makes sense often because usually it's coming from internalized coping strategy to maintain safety when we grow up in environments where things are unpredictable or volatile or chaotic in some way. We learn that if we behave in ways that others expect or want us to, it can give us that message that somehow we're safe. And we learn to do this quite well. And we grow up to be often very kind, very generous, very giving people who are willing to bend over backwards for others and often overextend ourselves for others. But the downside is that we often will feel resentful toward others. We can feel used or exploited, um, and uh, and a lot of times we're quite angry with ourselves. There's an element of self rejection that rides along with people pleasing. And so the relationship with ourself is usually um, quite negative, and we don't show up with people in an authentic way because it doesn't feel safe to do that. So it's understandable and it makes sense, um, but it often has these hidden costs that we don't realize because our relationship with ourselves is just often so negative and so painful. But there's also an enormous risk in recovering from people pleasing. I happen to be a recovering people pleaser myself. I love for people to be pleased. I like when people like me, and it's hard for me when people don't. So I've spent a lot of years trying to work with my own people pleasing tendencies. And I can tell you that it's hard to do, but it's also over time, it's actually quite liberating. But one of the things that's actually very hard to do is the idea of giving up control over other people's thoughts and feelings. People pleasers do believe that we have control over how people think and feel about us, and that if we don't prioritize that, if we don't try to manage other people's perceptions, or as I say, um, you know, fill the role of perception managers in our lives, then we run the risk of other people disapproving of us or being mad at us or having negative thoughts and feelings about us. So we think that we can kind of control that by people pleasing. Except that it actually doesn't work. Have you noticed that sometimes, no matter how much you people please, that people are not pleased? That somehow you're always finding that someone's disappointed or somebody doesn't like you. And it can really throw us into a tailspin because we think, well, we're so good at people pleasing. How can they not like me? I'm so pleasing. But unfortunately, we actually don't have control over other people's thoughts and feelings. And so, but breaking the bubble of this illusion can be quite difficult and painful even and scary to let other people have their own thoughts and feelings about us without us trying to manage them. So it can be a tall order, and it takes practice and risk to move out of the people pleasing position. It's anxiety provoking, and it requires learning how to treat ourselves differently, how to become honest with ourselves without judging ourselves, to learn what it means to be self compassionate and to approach ourselves with more gentleness rather than our habituated tendency to be very self judgmental and very harsh and quite rejecting. So it really, the foundation of changing people pleasing requires a change in our relationship with ourselves so that we can start with the willingness to be vulnerable with ourselves without hurting ourselves or doing emotional violence to ourselves, so to speak. So that is people pleasing. I have written a bit on it below, so I hope that you'll take the time to read what I've written, and hopefully this gives you a little bit of a different spin on the people pleasing issue. All right, I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Take care. Bye.